Hello, everybody. Good evening. Welcome to our workshop today on engaging safely in the digital world. My name is Kirk Saunders, and I'll just give you a little bit of history of myself. I currently work for the Toronto Metropolitan University, formerly known as Ryerson University. I'm a part of the Rogers Cybersecure Catalyst program, which falls under I'm just going to say TMU from moving forward. I'm from the corporate training and cyber range, where I'm a cyber range trainer. Part of my duties is to present these workshops for cyber awareness, just to try and help people as much as we can to keep them safe online. Prior to that, I worked in the telecommunications industry, but right now, as a part of my role, I'm a cyber range trainer. I won't go too much into what I actually do at Toronto Metropolitan University. So let's start this session, and please, as Nina had asked, if you have any questions, you can put them in the chat, and then at the end of the presentation, we'll have some time to actually go through and answer some of these questions. Excuse me. All right. So first part is the why. So more and more, we've been increasingly connected to the digital world. We now slowly rely on these digital networks for our work, in some cases for school, and even more so for what I like to call playtime, right? With this increased reliance on these digital networks does come a high degree of risk. And this would include risk on a personal basis, it could be on a financial basis, and even a reputational basis. And this is why we really need to employ best practices to avoid the risks that come along with using this digital world, and to do our best to stay as safe as possible. So let's talk about the goal for today's workshop. So it is to do our best to help you navigate the digital world safely and securely, regardless of where you are. Whether you're at home, you're at work, at a Starbucks cafe using free Wi-Fi, we'll talk about that soon. Could be at a concert, for your favorite band, even when you're, say, visiting a friend. In regards to the objectives of the workshop today, it is to help you assess your personal risks and how these risks can extend to your friends and family, and to also identify actions that you can take to help reduce these ongoing risks. So I have to ask the question, and don't worry, you don't have to respond, but I just want you to stop for a second and to think about this. How do you engage in the digital world? A lot of people would answer, well, I'm a social person, so I like to go onto Facebook, I like to go onto TikTok, I like to go on what's that other one? Twitter, Instagram. I do my banking. I watch Netflix. If I'm traveling, I like to take my laptop with me or my iPad, things like that. So for now, just take a few seconds and just really have a good thought as to how do I really engage in the digital world. And I believe it will help us in during the workshop, once you have that thought in your head as to, okay, well, this is what I do. So that leads into another sort of food for thought, a question. What are the risks to you, your family, and your friends when you are online, right? There's so many different things that we could mention about what type of risks there are for you. But I also want you to stop and think as well, what would be the impact to you or even your friends and family, if someone stole your online identity? What happens if you lost your phone or your laptop? What would be the impact if a cyber criminal got access to your banking information? What about your email, your home address, or other personal information, and if that was distributed on the internet? And you really have to stop and think about these things anytime you are going to be going online, because all of your actions will have a reaction, right? So as an example, if you go to a say a Starbucks, connecting to a free Wi-Fi, you might think, hey, all right, great, I'm not at home, I can still connect in and I can still go to my Facebook website, I can still do my Instagram, I can do my banking and things like that. But there's going to be consequences for you if that's not approached properly and safely. And we will discuss that in an upcoming slide. But again, I really want you to stop and think, what would happen? What would happen if somebody actually did steal my identity? Just today, actually, I had a contractor come in to do some work in my basement, and he was telling me a story about he's a contractor, so he buys a lot of things from Canadian Tire. And believe it or not, he said, yeah, I had about $3,000 in Canadian Tire money, so I thought I was going to go and buy my grandkids a couple bikes for summer. He goes to the store, and all of a sudden he doesn't have $3,000 in Canadian Tire money anymore. He had about $48. So he did a little bit of investigating, and it turns out that somebody had gained access to his Canadian Tire account and actually used it to purchase certain items in Ottawa, keeping in mind that he lives in Oakville. So it's just little things like that. He had he stopped and he thought, oh my gosh, you know what? It could have been that day that I was here connecting to a free Wi-Fi, as an example. But so really for here, just you want to make sure you stop and think about what you're doing and what kind of effect it could potentially have. All right, let's go to the next slide. Okay, so there we go. All right, this is the next slide. So cyber risk. So we always have to have that conversation about cyber risk. So here are two very important points for you to remember. First and foremost, there's no such thing as 100% security, right? This always, I know, brings up some sort of uncertainty, but let's talk about the top 5 cyber threats that we have to deal with on a daily basis. So number 1, ransomware. Always be aware of any unsolicited emails, particularly those that ask for a prompt result. I'll talk a little bit more in detail on a specific slide where I sort of give a lot of examples of things, what not to do, what not to read, what not to click on. So I'm just going to go through these. Phishing emails or phishing SMS. So keep in mind that companies simply do not ask for sensitive information through text message, or even in some cases an email. One thing you want to always make sure is that you have your spam filters turned on and checking them regularly in case they accidentally trapped an innocent email, because sometimes, yes, some emails will end up in your junk mail. But I'll talk a little bit more about phishing emails coming up soon. Number 3 would be data leakage. What I mean by this is smartphones and tablets are targets. Ensure that your mobile devices have a passcode, depending on which, if you have an iPhone, say Face ID, or with Androids, you have your fingerprint. You always want to make sure that that is turned on. You want to make sure you do have a passcode on your phone. You basically do not want anybody other than yourself or somebody that you trust to actually gain access to that particular device. Also, you always want to keep a very close eye, not only on your devices, but any paperwork that you might have around. Let's say you're at university, or you're at a conference, or you're anywhere, and if you do have certain paperwork around, you want to make sure that you're keeping a very close eye on this, and be very mindful of the prying eyes, somebody behind you sort of looking over, if you're at a bank machine, let's say, putting in your PIN, something along those lines. The fourth one would be hacking. So you always want to protect yourself from hacking by using VPNs when you're not at home, or you say if you're connected to free Wi-Fi. That's the whole Starbucks story, right? So anything that's considered free Wi-Fi, and this would include hotels, restaurants, if you went to a concert and you're at a stadium, anywhere that says, hey, you can connect to us for free. You always want to make sure that your device is protected when you're on that free Wi-Fi, because, and I know I'm going ahead of myself here. I'll talk a little bit more about that coming up. Fifth one would be insider threats, right? And this would include, believe it or not, family or friends. So what you want to do is to ensure that you're limiting the amount of personal information that your friends and family have access to. What happens if they were hacked? Your personal information could be part of the information that the hackers obtain, right? So, this we could probably talk about all day, but just be very careful, basically, as who you share, a password with. And I always, I'm the first one to say, please never share your passwords. Or as it says here, like I was saying, your personal information, right? Because again, if that person gets compromised, and let's say you might have forwarded your tax returns to them, or something that could actually lead to identity theft, right? You always have to think, okay, well, I'm giving my uncle this particular document. Well, what happens if he's not, secure enough when he's using his laptop? So just some food for thought that you really have to think about. And this is what really leads to the cyber risk, because again, you're never 100% secure. You can do your best to help mitigate it, but it's never 100% guarantee that you'll always be secure. But you can do your best to keep it very close to 100%. So in regards to that second point I was referring to, which was about phishing emails, the more you use technology, the more apps you use, and the more connections you use, this will, of course, increase your exposure, which, of course, and then in turn will increase your risk while online. So, of course, now the conversation goes to, well, how can we, or what can we do to help reduce these particular risks? It's a good question. So let's talk a little bit about that now. First one there we'll talk about is securing your devices, right? Know where your phone is at all times. Lock your phone when you're not using it, and also make sure that it is kept up to date. One of the first things that a hacker is going to look for is outdated software, right? So if your laptop has software on there and that hasn't been updated in a long time, and if they're doing a scan of your particular device and they see, oh, wait a second, this person has this program and it's outdated. Let me see if there's an exploit for that. And that would be one of many ways that you could use that to now compromise your particular machine, and of course find out any information that is on there, your personal, information, banking information, whatever the case is. So you always want to make sure, like I said, you know where your phone is. Lock it when you're not using it. Well, then again, if you're locking it, make sure you put it in your pocket, in your bag, whatever. Don't never leave it on a table, because prying eyes, and you never know who's going to actually pick that up. And again, if it's not locked, they have access to everything that you have on that particular device. Securing your information. is another way to help you to reduce the risk. Please do not use summer 2022 as an example as a password, or password 123 exclamation mark. Passwords should be at least, I always say 10 characters, at least 10 characters long. Other people would say 15, right? And you always want to make sure that you're also including special characters in there. So percentage, ampersand, hashtag, the $, percentage, ampersand, things like that. So you want to make your password as secure as you possibly can, because coming from cybersecurity and having access to these tools on a daily basis in my job, and having to do some testing on it and then create a cybersecurity scenario for people to come in and actually learn from. When it comes to passwords, that's one of the things that we always like to highlight, because a weak password, like I said, summer 2022, what these hackers will use are what they call word lists, and and believe me, they have one list that has, I believe it's like a couple million different sort of common passwords that people have used. So they'll run that particular list, say, against your account. Excuse me. So the longer, more complex the password, the harder it is, and the longer it would take for them to crack your password. So one way to definitely make sure that you're securing your information is to use a very, very strong password. Next one there would be to secure your connections, right? When you're not at home and you're connected via free Wi-Fi, as I mentioned, you want to use a VPN at all times, because that will encrypt your data. When you're connected to a free Wi-Fi, there's no real security involved in that connection. And anybody else that is also connected to that free Wi-Fi could potentially, and I just want to stress, potentially see all of your traffic. And by your traffic, what I mean is you going on your bank website and typing in your username and your password, you going to your Facebook account, you going to your Instagram account, basically anything that you're doing while you're connected to free Wi-Fi can potentially be captured by somebody else that is also connected to that free Wi-Fi. So this is why using a VPN is key, because the VPN will encrypt all of your traffic. Yes, there are programs out there that can capture this sort of network traffic that you're doing on that particular free Wi-Fi. But if you're using a VPN, different story, right? They can see it, but they won't be able to make any sense of it because it is encrypted. And that's very key, especially when we're talking about free Wi-Fi. Slide. There we go. So let's, when we're talking about device security, what we'll see on this slide is just a checklist of things that you can use to help you to keep your devices secure, right? And that would include, make sure that you're running antivirus, anti-malware software, and you have a firewall turned on. Key point there, though, is that to make sure that your antivirus is those programs are always up to date. So you have to constantly update these programs. Now, a lot of them you can easily set to automatically update, which is good, and you want to make sure that that is turned on. I believe by default all of them are, but things can happen. You just want to make sure that your antivirus software definitions, as they call them, are always up to date. Passwords and passphrases, as we've mentioned, making it a very long password and making it very complex. There are a lot of password managers that are available out there that can manage that for you. I've been using one called LastPass. There's one based out of Toronto called 1Password. And I'm actually now in the process of getting my mom set up on one of them, because she always seems to forget her passwords. But she's also, when she says, okay, I'm just going to make my password X, and it's like, I try to say to her, that's not really a secure password. But at least with like a password manager, what I do is I have it set up to create a 30-character long password. If you asked me if I knew what my password for my bank is, I'd just shake my head and go, no, I'd have to go and check my password manager, because it created it for me. And when I'm online, it automatically inputs that information for me. Lock screen, again, another thing we had mentioned. If you're at if you're at the library, as an example, and you have your laptop, you have to, for whatever reason, you have to step away for even a second, make sure that you're locking that screen. You do not want to give anybody other than yourself access to that particular machine. Updates. Please always do your software updates, because that is what is going to help, I'm going to say help, you to be secure. Because I mentioned before, hackers are looking for outdated software that hasn't been updated in a long time, because then there are exploits that they could use to gain access. Right now, today, as part of my job, I'm working on a new scenario that we have that involves gaining access to a WordPress website. And because it was running old plugins, right? All the different plugins that WordPress have available, they have different versions of it. So because this one was we had purposely set it up with a particular plugin that was old, I was able to exploit it, because again, there was an exploit. There was some way for me to do something to gain access in, and of course, nobody would really know when I'm doing it, but I'm actually able to do it because there was an updated software on that particular machine. Clearing caches. Now, what that means is every time you go onto a website, let's say you went to globalmail.com as an example, and you went to another website, and then 2 hours later you went back to Global Mail, and all of a sudden, boom, the website came up much quicker. You're like, oh wow, that was quicker than the last time. Because what happens is, when you're accessing a website, everything that you see is a file, right? A picture, the text, all of that is stored into a folder, we'll call it, so that the web browser can now access that file easily, much quicker the next time you go to that website. So the only thing that really would need updating is, say, if it's the Global Mail, and of course the news articles are going to look different, but everything else around there, the ads, the header, the titles, everything there are stored in caches. So you want to make sure that you're clearing that out as well, because you would hate for an attacker to sort of get a good idea of what it is that you like to do. What websites do you like to visit? Because all of that kind of information could be used against you on an attack, and a specific one that's targeted towards you, because they know what you like, where you like to go to Starbucks, you like to get your bubble tea, you're ordering Uber Eats every Friday, whatever the case is. So you want to make sure that you're also clearing the cache. Now, it's very easy to find out how to do this by just doing a quick search online. Say, let's say if you're using Google, say Google Chrome, how do I clear my cache? Because all of that information, believe it or not, you don't realize that it's being stored on your computer, but it is. It's also clearing out your history, like what websites that you're visiting as well, because believe it or not, yes, that could be used potentially against you to sort of target you. Trust. So when we talk about that, we're talking about managing apps and their access, removing old or unused apps. I just realized too, looking through my phone the other day, that there's a lot of apps that I do not use anymore, right? And what happens if one of those apps just happens to be one that could be exploited because of whatever reason, a certain setting is turned on or turned off, or whatever the case is. So something you definitely want to do is just do a quick audit of what is on your phone, and just make sure that the apps are all up to date, and also make sure that you are using them regularly. Another important point to talk about is backups, right? You always want to make sure that you have a backup of your most important files. When we talk about a ransomware attack, and we hear about them practically all the time, what happens is they gain access to a computer. They lock those files so that you cannot access them until you pay them something. Well, if I have a backup of these files, and in the end, I don't have to pay that ransomware because I can now easily restore that particular information. So what I always suggest is just to get an external hard drive, right? This is probably the most secure way to do a backup of your files, right? So this could just be your personal files, whatever the case is, just something that's important to you. Save it on an external hard drive and then disconnect it. Notice that mine is disconnected right now because now nobody can gain access to this. So if I do get hit with a ransomware attack, I can still restore my files from this backup. And of course, you have to mention physical security because that is something you do have to keep in mind. Well, I see a lot of people like to, and I do it myself too, put your phone in your back pocket and half of it is sticking out, as an example. You want to make sure that all these devices that you're using are secure. And like I said before, lock the screen, make sure you're constantly, every second where that particular device is. So it's a lot to keep in mind though when it comes to device security. I did sort of talk about this with free Wi-Fi. I'll just reiterate. Anytime you're going anywhere that offers free Wi-Fi, you want to make sure that you're connecting using a VPN. Because again, if you see on the other side, there's a picture of an icon of a hacker saying, "This is too easy." Yes, because it's unsecure, that means anybody can connect to there. And that could be including a hacker who's trying to see, okay, let's see who's not using a VPN and let's see what information I can actually capture. And believe me, I've done quite a few scenarios where that was the case, where, again, purposely and in a controlled environment, running a particular program that captures this network traffic and filtering through it and finding valuable information, sometimes even passwords, as an example. So please remember, when you're going to anywhere with free Wi-Fi, I'm not saying not to use it, but definitely make sure that you're at least connecting with it with a VPN. Why do you not want to go to the next page? There you go. Oof, okay, so on here, this slide here now, we're sort of a continuation of securing your connections. Make sure that you're using, so you have a firewall protection. Excuse me, sorry about that. Firewalls will, for the most part, protect you against certain attacks. Because attackers, they have their means and their ways of trying to gain access to your computer. But if there's a wall there saying, no, sorry, you can't do this, nice try, it's always good to have that rather than not to have that, because that will stop a number of attacks. I have internet through Rogers, and I get notifications on my phone all the time, saying, oh, we just blocked this attack. Oh, we blocked this attack. We blocked this attack, which I'm glad for, because at least I know from my home internet, that it is relatively secure for me to use that, because the service provider is stopping a lot of these attacks by using a firewall. We talked about the virtual private network. That's what a VPN stands for. There's a lot of products out there that you can purchase. I have used NordVPN as an example. There's quite a lot of them out there. I would just say do your research. They all pretty much do the same thing, right? They create that secure connection between point A and point B to ensure that any traffic, anything that you're doing is encrypted along the way, so nobody can sort of, the term being, sniff out that particular information. Bluetooth is another interesting one as well. You want to make sure that your Bluetooth is disabled, because in certain cases I've heard of attacks being carried through when they were able to connect through somebody's Bluetooth connection. And I know, and even for myself, I should really practice what I preach for the most part when it comes to Bluetooth. But I usually have my Bluetooth turned on, but I know that I'm at risk every second that is on, especially if I'm out. I'm going to say when you're out and about, not really when you're at home per se, but just something to keep be aware of. Last point there again, yes, don't use public Wi-Fi without using a VPN. There we go. Okay, another sort of food for thought. Again, just stop for a few seconds and think for yourself, like, what data or information do you have online, and also along with that, what does sensitive information mean to you? What I would ask that you do, you can do it later on at the end of the workshop. Go online, go to Google and do a search on your name, or even if it's a friend's name or a family member. Just do a search, and you'd be surprised what kind of information can be picked up just by doing a simple Google search. I did a search on myself. Luckily for me that I didn't really have a lot of information that was there, but there were still items there that made me sort of surprised. I took a trip to Australia and New Zealand with my wife about 8 years ago, and I posted the pictures on a particular website that claimed that they're secure. Don't worry, your pictures are safe. Nobody can gain access to these pictures, unless you share them. And I was surprised when I came across pictures from that website. I thought, oh, well, that's pretty interesting. But I would ask that you do a search of yourself to see what kind of information that's out there. There's a lot of what they call social engineering tools that hackers will actually use to try and gain some information on you. And really what these tools will do is find as much information as it can, doing searches on just multiple social media websites. So one thing to think about as well is be careful what you're posting on social media. Just the other day, my friend went to Punta Cana with his family, and he's posting on Facebook. And I said to him, you do realize what you're telling people that can access that information? He's like, no, what? I was happy. I'm so glad we went. I said, yeah, but you posting that you and your family are in Punta Cana is telling somebody that you're not home right now. What happens if they have that information available to them where they might just happen to know where you live? Well, guess what? They now know that you're not home. So you just have to be very careful as to what information you post on social media, because that could potentially be used against you, right? So just be very, very mindful as to what you're posting. For me personally, I stopped posting on Facebook because I'm thinking I'm telling the whole world what's happening, what I'm doing, what I'm not doing, where I am and where I'm not. So I want you to really stop and think about that and look into it further as to what information do I have about myself that I can just go do a Google search to find out. So we can't have this conversation without talking about multi-factor authentication, because multi-factor authentication, otherwise known as two-factor authentication, or sometimes called two-step verification. This is something that, for the most part, really will keep your accounts, your online accounts, safe. What it's doing is it's adding an extra layer of protection to your account. So let's just say, for example, PayPal. So I'm just going to call out some names here, and so don't mind me. I could say, hey, Tina, do you know that Mary Lou has your PayPal password? Right? And you're like, what? She does? Like, oh my gosh. Well, I don't have multi-factor authentication turned on. What's going to happen? Well, Mary Lou is going to be able to log into your PayPal account. You won't know. She can purchase whatever she wants. You won't find out, Tina, until you see your credit card bill, as an example. But if you do have multi-factor authentication turned on, when Mary Lou tries to log in with your password, you're going to get notified. And that's the key. You are going to be notified right away when you turn on this multi-factor authentication or two-factor. So now Mary Lou logs in with Tina's PayPal password. All of a sudden, depending on how Tina has it set up to be notified, and there's four ways that I'll talk about. She'll get that notification. Now, if she knows that it's not her logging into her PayPal account, right away, what Tina needs to do is to go in and change that password on PayPal. But it doesn't stop there. You also have to make sure that you're changing that password on PayPal on any other website or service that you use the same password. Because a hacker will not stop at, oh, I just know what your PayPal account is. If they have credentials at work, what they'll do is they will run that against a laundry list of different sites to see if they get a hit. What happens if that happens to be the same password you use on your bank, as an example, right? So it's good to have this multi-factor authentication turned on because it notifies you. I have it set up on my Instagram account. I'll queue for any laughs, and you can laugh at me after. Like, why, Kirk? Well, I don't have anything to hide on my Instagram account. I don't really post on it. I just view friends and families, what they post. But the point is, there was a time in my life where I did use the same password, and I thought, okay, maybe I'm lazy. This will definitely prompt me if somebody knows what my password is for Instagram. Well, if I've reused that password, that now tells me I better go and do this go and change that password on any other site that I use the same password on. Right? And that's sort of the key when it comes to multi-factor authentication. So there's 4 ways that you can get notified. And I'm going to rank them for you quickly from very important to least important. Number 1 would be the Authenticator app. Google makes one, Microsoft makes one. I use both of them. And what it does is that, say, back to the story, Mary Lou logs into Tina's account. Tina does have MFA turned on. She gets a notification on her Authenticator app. Okay, great. And it gives her a 6-digit code that she needs to enter in before she can now log in. And sorry, when I said she is because I'm talking more like Tina can or Mary Lou, because if it's not Tina logging in, Mary Lou won't be able to continue logging in because she doesn't have that 6-digit code. Second and third one, I like to flip-flop, really. Email or voice call would be the other options that you could use. And the worst option to use would be text. Okay, now text is sent in clear text, which means it's not encrypted, it's not obfuscated, it's not not encrypted, like I said. It's sent in clear text. And there are actual tools out there, hacker tools, that can be used to get that information, right? So what happens if, say, Mary Lou's the hacker who got connected to Tina's Wi-Fi at home and initiated that PayPal attack that way, and she's hoping that Tina is actually using the text option because now she can run a tool to try to sniff out what that code is, and then while she has that code, she can complete the login to PayPal. So always want to make sure, as I said, you're using multi-factor authentication on any site that it is available on. Your CRA account is a very important one. CRA uses voice call and text, I believe. So my suggestion then would be the voice call option. Don't pull a Kirk. Don't put it on speakerphone so you can hear it. No. Good thing I was at home that particular day, but no, definitely with that particular situation, you want to use the voice call option over the text option. All right, now here's for me the most interesting part of the workshop. I'm going to start. What I'm going to go through now is how to staying security aware. What I'm going to do on this slide is just sort of give some do's and don'ts, some really very serious do's and don'ts. I was explaining to Nina earlier, that this is a sort of conversation that I would have with my mother, and I'd like to share that with you. So if we look at the first picture there on the left, gift cards, right? You're thinking, gift cards, what's the big deal about gift cards? Anytime you find yourself in a conversation, and when I say conversation, I'm also going to include a voice call. But if you ever get into any type of conversation like SMS, email, WhatsApp, Signal, Facebook Messenger, anything that you use to communicate with digitally, if that conversation gets to the point of you purchasing a gift card to pay for a service or whatever the case is, please stop that conversation right away, because no reputable company in this world would ask you to make a payment of some sort using an iTunes gift card or a Google Play gift card, or let's look at one in the picture, Bath and Body Works. No, they wouldn't. There's just some way for them to exchange that into real money. I'm not particularly sure how it works, but the point I want to make is, conversation gets to a point of talking about gift cards, stop that conversation completely. My mom's friend got caught with it, and she had to file a police report. It took her like a month and a half to get her money back from the store that she actually purchased those gift cards from. SMS. Another conversation I'd have with my mom is, anytime you receive an SMS coming in, phone numbers can be spoofed, right? We get these calls all the time. It'll show a number and you answer, and it's some telemarketing person or somebody telling you that your computer is giving a lot of errors and we need to fix it. So what I always tell the story of, recently I got a fraud alert for my American Express card, and it said, please call this number. So what I always tell people is, never, ever click on a link that they provide or call the phone number that's in that message, because you don't know where that link is taking you and what would happen if you happen to click on that link and go to that website. So I always tell my mother, go to the source, go directly to the source of what it's supposed to be. So in my case, with American Express, I went to my American Express credit card and I called the number that's on the back of my American Express credit card, not the actual number, let's say, that is on that SMS message. Or I'm going to include, when you get a pop-up on your screen telling you, you have a virus, oh, you need to fix this, call this number. No, please, that's definitely not going to happen in the real world. So if they claim to be Microsoft, go to Microsoft's website and find a phone number. Never trust any of these phone numbers that you see on an SMS type of message. Never. Because it always ends up, and I hate to say it, it ends up in a call center in a different country, and they pretend to be Amazon customer service or Microsoft or whatever the case is. Another thing to sort of remember as well too is, never ever, if you, again, having a conversation with somebody and they ask that, oh, we need to connect to your computer, stop that conversation right away. Again, no reputable company would sort of force you to connect. Like, I've been watching a lot of YouTube videos on this, and some people they'll say, oh, it's about a refund. And they say, oh, for us to refund this money to you, we need to connect to your computer. So can you download this AnyDesk or TeamViewer program that'll allow us to gain access to your computer? Why? I've never, ever had to do that. If I call up Amazon and say, hi, I'd like a refund for a product that I just returned, can you give me a status on it? Amazon's not connecting to my computer to give me a refund. So there's no reason for anybody to have to connect directly to your computer to do anything, right? So at that point, again, stop that particular conversation. Back to SMS links, right? Again, not so much on the phone, but if you're on, say, your computer, I always say hover over a link. Hover over the link just to make sure you know exactly where you're going. Because to me, what that link is just text. It could say www.gmail.com/change password or tdbank/password. But that's not where you're actually physically going to all the time. So I hover over it and try it. Try it when you're after the workshop. Again, it could be on a Word document, PDF, email, anything that has a clickable link. Make sure you're always hovering over that particular link, which sort of goes in that conversation about emails. Get these emails, these phishing emails. You have to be very aware of, is this real? And sometimes it's a dead giveaway as to what it is, right? They'll say, oh, you were chosen to get a $500 Dyson vacuum for free, or whatever the case is. Again, from what I said earlier, go to the source. Don't click on any of those links, because again, and if it does not look legitimate, and when I say does not look legitimate, what I'm referring to is the grammar. It's usually the grammar that's a dead giveaway, right? The language is off, the syntax doesn't seem right, you know, the verbiage, who wrote this? And a reputable company would not send out something looking like this to a person. Or, you know, I've seen so many cases where it's like Shoppers Drug Mart, but what they're trying to do is to bypass any filters that your email system has set up to catch these particular emails. So they'll do like a capital S, a space, a lowercase h, they'll put a 0, and then they'll do some other funky characters, and then a P, and then a P, and then underscore. That doesn't look legit. Like, why would Shoppers Drug Mart, as an example, need to do something like that, right? And again, you know, there's so many different ways that you can identify what a phishing email is. But what I always say is, if it does not look legitimate, or even if you do think it looks legitimate, verify it. Verify it however you can. If it's Amazon sending you this particular email and you're like, oh, I got a free gift card. Oh, that's if I click on this link. Oh, that's cool. Get in contact with Amazon. Go to amazon.ca. Go on their chat and just say hi. You know, go to the source again. Because with these phishing emails, a lot of these phishing emails lead to probably, somebody had mentioned 90% of the attacks that are going on right now, which of course leads to other things like a ransomware attack of some sort. So you have to be very careful when it comes to SMS, when it comes to email. I always say, I don't always trust where it's coming from. Actually, I should mention with SMS. So with SMSs, because it's on your cell phone, I don't know if you guys are aware of what they call network codes. So as an example, Amazon is a good one. So if I log into my Amazon, because I have two-factor authentication set up, they're sending me a code to my phone. But that message is not coming in from a telephone number. It's coming from what we call a short code. And it's like 450013 or something. Let's say it might be 5 characters long, 4 characters long. I say that is legit. It's not legitimate when I get an SMS coming in for CRA, as an example, right? And it's coming from 1709-445-6932, or any of them. Like, so no, a company is not going to send a message out that way, usually with a telephone number. A lot of them will subscribe to the telecommunication providers here to have a short code. Rogers does the same thing. I know every time if I get a service message from Rogers, it's not coming from a phone number. It's coming from a very short number. A lot of companies, if you are using the text option, they will send it in a short code message. So look out for certain things like that. Phone numbers. Is this coming from a phone number? They're giving me an actual phone number for me to call, or a link to click on, and the link looks really weird. You know, x1j932.de/something, whatever. No, if you're telling me you're TD Bank, why are you sending me this weird obfuscated looking link, right? Again, just verify that information. Password is another one, and we already did sort of touch on that. Make sure you have a very long password. And keeping in mind just little things like this should help you to stay secure when you're, using the digital world. Just verify the information, right? If it's a gift card, stop the conversation. SMS coming in, because SMS numbers can be spoofed. Phone numbers can be spoofed, and because SMS is linked to a phone number, verify it. I'll tell you a quick story, and then we'll wrap up. But so this is more based on, I do a cyber awareness workshop for small medium businesses, and I always tell this story. So somebody in this company's finance department received an SMS text from the CEO of the company saying, "I'm out on a business trip. I need to close a deal down, and I need $10,000. Can you wire transfer it to me? Here's the information you need to get the money to me." That person actually went, oh my gosh, this is a trusted person. This is my CEO. They verified that was his phone number. Oh, sure. Okay. Yeah, no problem. And of course, they approved it. The person that told me the story was a sort of like a second level of authorization. So when it got to him, he declined it. And the reason he declined it was because he did his due diligence and verified that the CEO was actually not out on a business trip. That he had just gotten out of a meeting with that CEO. So he knew the CEO was not out of the office. But he verified, he knew that, but the finance person didn't. So just verify all this information. Just be very careful. Long passwords, be careful what you click on. Be very, and I would say try not to download an attachment even if it looks nice. Like it's a video of puppies and whatever. No, you always want to be very careful. When you're engaging in the digital world, because people are out there to really gaining access to your computer system. So last slide, yes, is just we're just going to wrap up and just sort of like a reminder, right? Understand the risks involved in what you're doing online. Be prepared. Secure your devices, your connections, secure your information. Be conscious of your digital footprint and life online. What information do I have out there on these social media websites that could be, open to everybody? If on the Facebook, yes, they have privacy controls. Make sure those are set up so that, that it's set up to say, only my friends can view this information, not friends of friends. As so little things like that can really go a very long way. And again, the last one there, be cautious, not paranoid, because you don't want. I'm not trying to dissuade you from engaging in the digital world. I'm just saying here's some food for thought as to what you should be thinking about before you engage yourself. And once you keep that in mind, you can be engaging online in a safe manner just by following some basic points, right? Keep yourself safe. Really, that's what it's coming up to at the end of the day. So, you know what? Maybe we'll talk about it after. Yeah. I always sort of ask that question, like, what is the one thing that you'll take away from this session apply? You don't have to respond, but I want you to think about it. Like, what are you taking away from this? What are you going to be doing differently after hearing, this particular workshop? A lot of the times people are so surprised when you talk about free Wi-Fi. It seems to be the biggest one, where people are like, whoa, wait, what? I should be doing this? I didn't know I was, unsecure to connect to a free Wi-Fi, as an example. And this slide is just has some links to some websites. Like Get Cyber Safe is a very good one for Canadian government. There's a lot of great information. There's even information in there on scams going on in Canada right now and how to mitigate those specific scams. So definitely, I would say, check out getcybersafe.gc.ca. And ladies and gentlemen, can you believe that is our presentation for today?